I can, um, but I'm not the important one. Scott, we good? Okay, great. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm based in Arizona, so it's nice to be able to talk to you all the way on the other side of the country. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Um, this is my talk. I'm Chris Zukowski, how to market a PC game in 2021. Seems hopefully some of you are. Is Before I go into it, I mean, any of you marketing a PC game? Got a PC game in the works?
Early stages works.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Okay, so let me show you just kind of the basics of Steam here. This is actually the very first version of Steam. It used to be just old games developed by Valve. That was literally the whole catalog there on that game section down there. But all of a sudden, Steam one day opened it up and let a game that was not made by Valve. It was a game called Ragdoll Kung Fu, which thankfully, they've gotten a lot higher quality games since then. But that was the first non-official Valve game, and it used to be really hard to get on on Steam. You used to have to convince like somebody at Valve to let you in. So that was basically from 2005 until 2012. Valve was the gatekeeper. You just had to know somebody on the inside. But then in 2012, they started this program called Greenlight, where you could upload your game to a or pitch site, and people would upvote it. And if enough people voted on it, they would let you in. When you were on Greenlight, so they would actually let you into Steam. And this is kind of where the shovelware era started. Enough games got on there, and this is kind of where we got to. So after Greenlight, it became you didn't even have to upvote that game anymore. You could just, if you had $100, you can get your game on Steam, which is where we are now. But in 2018, Steam got a little wise. Apparently, there were so many shovelware games, really weird ones, like this strike mall that was $200. They actually think they were like some mafia money laundering scheme. Some of these games, super weird games. So Steam started cracking down on some of this stuff, and they actually decided to put in some algorithm changes. And indies at this point were kind of saying, hey, we need curation at this point, aka more gatekeeping. And what they did was in 2019, they started changing the algorithm. And Steam started, you could kind of tell because all of a sudden weird traffic things were happening on Steam. And what Steam did was basically they posted this blog post because the traffic was so weird right around 2018. And this blog post said, oh, sorry, we were just trying to fix some things. But deep in this, they hid this little statement here. It says, however, we still kept a part of the change that factored in sales and wish lists and popularity. They snuck this little change into Steam that basically says, we are going to prioritize based on sales. You could tell they were trying to fix this problem that they had earlier. And later that year, they published this blog post, and they said, we heard you. We heard there was too much shovelware on Steam. We fixed it. And what they did, and what this chart says, is if you compared 2018 and what games made in 2018 to what games made in 2019, and you just graphed against each other, all these games in the green made more money than in 2018. So Steam was like, look at how much more money you're making in 2019 than 2018. Isn't this fabulous? And when I look at it, I'm like, well, what is going on with this orange zone here? What like everybody's making more green except for everybody on the left side of the screen here. What's going on? And basically, to fix the shovelware, money laundering, mafia connections, they just basically put this invisible gatekeeper. They don't talk about this guy, but if you look at the data, there's just something happening, and I don't even know where it is. I don't know if it's at. See, if you notice, it's at like the 35 percentile. These are games on earnings. So at 35 percentile, you start earning more. And so basically, the Steam algorithm has put in this hidden gatekeeper. So I'm going to show you tonight how to get past the gatekeeper. So here's what I am. I'm a marketing strategist, so I help indies sell their games on Steam. So I work with publishers. I worked with games as a service. I help individual companies like Away. It's a cute game about controlling a sugar glider. It's really cute. So that's me. That's my Twitter account, and I blog every week on howtomarketagame.com. I study the numbers for this sort of thing to kind of figure out how do we get past that magical invisible gatekeeper. I also do GDC talks. I did one in 20. Actually, I think it was 2019. I don't know why I put that 20 logo. Anyway, oh yeah, it was 2020. It was last year. It was the That's why it looks like I'm in my living room because I had to give it in the living room because we all shut down. That was about a year ago. If you watch the talk, actually, you'll see I'm like very self conscious about touching my face. That was back in the day when the pandemic when they said don't touch your face. So like I'm just constantly like self conscious about that. I'm way past that now. So that was last year. Empathizing with Steam. It was about how I did this study where I watched. I'm a former UX designer, and so I watched how people shopped on Steam by just observing them, and I tracked people and consensual, of course, where we would pair up, and it was one on one where they would shop on Steam, and I would just watch to see what they looked at, what caught their eye, how they bought things, what decided whether they're going to buy it or not. That's basically what I did, and that was my talk for that. So you can just find that on YouTube. I make games. This is one of my games called One Screen Platformer. It's a platformer game that takes place on one screen. And just today, like literally like an hour ago, I just turned this thing on, and it's how to make a Steam page.com. And it's a class, it's totally free. It's a free class where I teach you all the components of Steam and how to make your Steam page look really good. That's what it is. So free game, how to make a Steam page.com free class. It's about a little over an hour to do it. Okay, so that's what this talks about. I'm going to teach you how to get past this algorithm. And there's 4 kind of ways to get past them, and I'm going to kind of teach it to you. Okay, so game and genre. This is the most important. And was it Olga that said that she's pre-production or anything? This is why it's so important to get in early. Turns out, game and genre is so important in actually having success on Steam. There's kind of common thoughts that just make a good game, everything else happens. But it's not just about making a good game, it's about making a game that is good, but that also Steam likes. Steam has kind of taste. You can't really sell just any game on Steam, even if it's good. It all comes down to genre. And let me show you why. Okay, so as part of my study for Steam, I looked at every single game on Steam. There's about 40,000 games on Steam, and I just looked at all the tags. Tags are how you say what genre of game you are. And I just graphed them all. So like how many games have the puzzle tag? How many have the platformer tag? Here's what it results in. As you can see, there's a whole lot of puzzle platformers on Steam. And then what I did was I just thought, okay, well, how well are these games selling? And I thought, okay, well, what if you can estimate how many sales a game has by looking at reviews. So you can kind of get a rough estimate. So what I did was I looked at every game and how many reviews they had, and I graphed it against the median earning for every game. And as you can see, it's almost like an economics 101 lecture on supply and demand. Strategy, RPG, building games where you're kind of like constructing these things earn a whole lot of money. That's that high red line. But there's a huge supply, some would say a glut, of puzzle platformers. Now, I make platformers. I'm not saying anything bad about platformers. It's just there's a lot of them out there and they don't make much money. So understanding this chart is very key to actually having success on Steam. Steam, other ways they reveal it. Steam recently had a festival, and they put a trailer on each page of the festival, and they broke down the pages based on genre. So I just went to YouTube to see how many views every one of these store page videos got, and that's what you're looking at is the number of views. As you can see, RPG and strategy are like the top most viewed genre videos, and puzzle platformer are kind of on the lower end, actually the bottom two. So a lot of indies, this is hard to hear from a lot of indies. I make a puzzle platformer, but they'll say, okay, I'm just going to tweet extra hard. I'll just go for it. I'm just going to go extra tweet. And here's kind of my thing. Okay, so I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, which is like way almost as southern as it can be. We actually used to be part of Mexico until the Gadsden Purchase. This is my childhood home. I literally had saguaros in my front yard. Like when Bugs Bunny showed up in the desert, he had saguaros. That's how they in the cartoons they said it was the desert. I literally grew up with saguaros in my front yard. So here's the thing: is like, what if you came to me and you said, "I've got an idea. I want to open a ski shop in Tucson." And I did a search just to see, and I searched for skis in Tucson, and there is one store that has skis in the title. It's actually 1/3 of the store's skis. And just to make sure that I was like giving you guys good information, I asked them, I said, What kind of skis do you have? And they said, oh, we don't sell the skis you put on your feet. We only sell jet skis. So there literally are no stores in Tucson that sell skiing equipment. And so if you were there and you said, okay, we're going to tweet these cool ski memes, we're going to have this like locally craft guy to like, he's the best ski maker who's ever lived. We're going to put him in Tucson and we're going to hire these ski influencers. You're going to pull all the marketing punches that you possibly can. By the way, this that's a ski meme, I guess. I just Googled ski memes. I guess that's a sick burn on Nordic skiers. I don't know. I'm from Tucson. I don't know anything about skiing. So here's the thing, though. It doesn't matter. Even if you had the most pristine ski memes and you tweeted them out at the best times, it doesn't matter if you're trying to sell skis in Tucson because we just don't buy skis here. It's like it's Arizona. We just don't buy it. And that's what you got to understand about Steam. Even if you had the best marketing ever, but you're selling a game that's not really the taste of Steam, you got to put that in perspective. So Steam buyers just don't buy a lot of some genres. They buy a lot of a different type of genre. So you just kind of have to understand the marketplace. That's the biggest marketing decision you make is what kind of game you have. So if you go to this site, gamestats.com/steam/tags, you can see all the tags and how popular they are. And you can also get an estimate of the median earnings. And this is just a helpful way to see what they like. So these are the genres that Steam really likes. For instance, villain protagonist, colony sim, number 16. That's like one of the biggest genres, colony sim. Those are like kind of like Terraria, some of these RimWorld. That's what those are. And so really what it is Steam really likes these deep strategy building games, really, really complex ones. They'll pay a lot of money for it. So the median colony sim, which is the one on the left, earns about $44,000, whereas the median platformer like my game earns around $1,200. That's just the perspective. See how it doesn't matter how good your tweet game is, like it's just not going to matter. So this is, in general, this is what Steam likes. Dark setting, deep gameplay, endless content. That's kind of what the wheelhouse for Steam is. Now, that's not to say we should all just make those type of games. Like, you can do it. Like, if you're making this for art, if you're making games as a poetic expression or something like that, that's totally fine. Like, more power to you. And Steam is actually a pretty good platform for getting visibility for those, just not earning a lot of money. So if you're not interested in money, that's fine. Go for it. Make whatever you want. But if you are trying to make a living off of this or trying to supplement your income or something, you got to learn the odds. And you can still make a platformer game, just budget accordingly. Don't mortgage your apartment or your house for that. If you're making, puzzle platformer, just factor that into how much you're spending on a game like that. So again, if you're doing it for the art or the fun of it, if it's your hobby, make whatever you want. Like, more power to you. Please do. But again, you have to be careful about it. Okay, so you just decided you're going to make a colony sim, which is like the perfect genre for Steam. And you're like, okay, we're just going to launch because we're the perfect thing. We're just going to pull the Beyonce and just like release our album with no fanfare, just launch it. Okay, so genre is important, but it's not that good. Let me tell you exactly why it's not going to work. It has to do with wish lists. Now, if you're deciding to go viral, like you can just announce it that you're going to go viral, you are not going to fare very well against the invisible, gatekeeper that lives in the Steam algorithm. Let me show you why. Steam has this thing about wish lists. I don't know if you get wish list games on Steam, but a lot of players do. So when your game goes live or when your game has a Steam page, there's a little button there called Add to Wish List. A lot of people push that. What happens is when the game eventually launches that you wish list, you get an email that says, go buy it. This email is so powerful. This is what drives the most sales of any marketing activity you can do. It's so important. Basically, about this amount of percentage of people will buy the game from your wish list. They'll go buy it based off of that. So if you have 20 or 10,000 wish list, you can do the math to figure out how many will actually convert. Here's the thing is, Steam's kind of priced the algorithm. Again, I said he's invisible. We can't really see where the secret gatekeeper is, but it seems based on all the data and research that I do and people I talk to, it's about 10,000 wish lists. So if you can get 10,000 wishes, you kind of get past this guy. And it's the first sign because just a week before you launch your game, if you get about 10,000 wish lists, you show up on this thing called Popular Upcoming. It's on Steam. You kind of have to scroll down a little bit. It's called Popular Upcoming. Steam starts to give you some little extra visibility right around 10,000 wish lists. And this is what I say. It's like the guy kind of pulling back the velvet rope and letting you in just a little bit. Like you can peek in if you get 10,000 wish lists. That's kind of the feeling here. So Home Sweet Home got right up there. And that's why I say viral isn't enough. You can't just like drop a game on Steam and expect it to sell, because you need to hit that 10,000 wish lists. And there's very, very, very few things that can go get you 10,000 wish lists like that. It's really hard to get to 10,000. Like even if you get the most viral influencer to like cover your game, you're not going to earn 10,000 wish lists in there. You might get a couple thousand, not 10,000. So basically, here's the thing: is your Steam campaign. If you're going to launch a game on Steam, you have to have a long run up. It's a marathon, not a sprint where you just like drop and hope to go viral. And this is actually, I like this. This is good news because you've got a lot of shots on goal. You can try things. You can say, hey, we're going to reach out to streamers before you've launched and see how many people will cover you. And maybe they do. And then you find out, oh, they only got 500 wish lists. That's not worth it. Let's try this activity. You've got a lot of time to kind of try things to see what works. That's what I like about marketing on Steam. It's not like you're putting all your eggs on one basket on launch and you hope that it goes well. I mean, you still kind of have to do that, but you have plenty of time to kind of refine your messaging and get your game out to the right people. So this is what a Steam campaign looks like. There's this website called steamdb.info, I believe. Steamdb.info. And you can chart. It's not wish lists, it's what's called followers. They're the cousin to wish lists, but they track at the same rate. You can see how a campaign for a game went over the time. And this is a game that has a very long campaign. And you can see how they have little spikes up. This is cumulative, so it always goes up. But you can see there's like periods of spikes. And then there's also long periods where they kind of have a slow rise. So what I'm going to show you are the two parts of these campaigns when you have a game on Steam. You have the long, slow, and then you have the real fun spikes. I'm going to cover both of them. So boring daily growth, I'm going to show you how to get to these. I prefer boring things. I'm kind of a boring guy. I like boring things because it's slow. It's the glacier. Here's the thing: is Steam exposes your game every single day to shoppers, like every day. You've got to optimize your page for this. And let me show you this thing. So these are two games that people have shared with me. I see a lot of numbers because a lot of people just share their game information with me. Lo-Fi Ping Pong, Omen Exito. Two different games, but they get about the same traffic. This is a 7-day period, and these two guys share their information with me. And they both get right around the same amount of impressions, 35,000 per 7-day period. That's pretty close, right? If somebody sees an impression is just their capsule, which is those two images that I show you, that's like their book cover. Those are shown. About 9.6% of people who saw Lo-Fi Ping Pong's capsule image clicked on it. Omen Exito, 6.7% of people clicked it and said, oh, okay, I'll see it. That results in a visit where they go to their Steam page. So as you can see, it's like 9.6, 6.7. Not too much, like 3%, right? That's not much, 3%. Now, when they're on Steam page, do they click the visits button? From the visit, do they click the wishlist button? About 4.7% of Lo-Fi, 2.7% of Omen Exito. Again, you're like 2%, whatever, 2%, that's not much. But if you extrapolate these wishlists out from the 7-day period out for a full year, Lo-Fi Ping Pong in a year without doing any other marketing, just letting Steam show them traffic, will get 8,372 wish lists. Omen Exito, about 3,068. So as you can see, just those small percentages of 3%, 2%, it's compound interest, and it grows and it grows. So you have to have a well-optimized page. Here's how to do some of these optimizations. You need high-quality graphics. It's one of the best investments you can give. This is a guy based out of Russia who showed me his stuff, and he originally had this he just took a screenshot of his game and put a label on it, Dwarven Valley. Then he went and got a professional illustration of his game, this like guy with a hammer, changed it, instantly saw a spike in traffic, and his traffic has increased since then. So having high quality graphics really impacts your game. It just makes you look more professional. And there's other things like the genre, how I said builders are really popular. There's this weird trope that if you have a builder game, you got to put a hammer in your capsule image. It's like a rule. So Shop Titans has one. Dwarven Valley, they decided to add one. This game called Crafting Idle Clicker, they decided to put 2 in there. I don't know if they get twice as many wish lists by doing that. I don't know. I haven't reached out to them. But hey, why not try 3 hammers? We'll see what happens. But that's only if you have a crafting like builder game. But what I'm saying is there's these like secret tropes. Okay, the other thing that's going to get you this good, slow, boring traffic is to tag your game correctly. Tags are how you tell Steam what type of game you have. And basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a popular game, and then you want your game shown right next to that game that's just like yours. You're kind of Steam is actually kind of like a wine sommelier, where they just say like, "Oh, you like the Chardonnay? Well, I've got this wonderful 2020 vintage from whatever region. I know you like Chardonnays. You always come in here. We've got this, and they bring it to you, and they bring it to the table. Steam's basically that. So these tags are essentially like you classifying your wine, like which region you're from, what age, what year, because you want that recommendation to happen. So you have to tag your game correctly. But don't tag your game incorrectly, otherwise people won't. They'll be like, no, this isn't a Chardonnay. They're like, yeah, this is like, some Bordeaux or something. So but your genre will really affect this. So like I said, Steam loves city builder games. A city builder is going to earn about 50 wish lists a day. Action platform or action adventure FPS, about 30 a day. Puzzle platformers, 7 a day. That's just the genre. Just by having the right genre is what affects those kind of things. So, like I said, slow boring is what happens on these, just like when no promotion, you're not like trying to reach an influence or anything. It's just Steam's general traffic. It's really important to get this right. I mentioned I've got this new howtomakasteampage.com. You can register for it. It's a free class. I just walk through every single component on your Steam page and tell you how to kind of optimize it based on the best research available now. You just sign up for it. I just launched it today. Howtomakasteampage.com. Sign up. It's good. It's totally free. Okay, now a lot of people like the fun part. This is the exciting promotions. This is when you like get a streamer to cover you, go viral, that kind of stuff. These are all these little cliffs that you see in Steam campaigns where they get a lot of traffic to the page and a lot of wish lists. Here is how to do it. There's festivals. Steam is always running a different thing. There was just recently Mix. Every quarter, Steam has a seasonal festival. They just had one in February 3rd. It was called the What's Next. But you enter your game in these. If you lived in Quebec, all the indies in Quebec partnered together and they had a little festival and on Steam, thousands of wish lists. Median wish list earned 750. Streamers, they'll get you about 1,500. Alpha Beta Gamer, when you run a beta, you can get this guy Alpha Beta Gamer to cover your game, gets you about 1,000 wish lists. These kind of things will kind of boost you. If you get to the front page of Reddit and do pretty well, about 1,500 wish lists. 400 wish lists if you go viral on Imager. Press coverage doesn't get you that much. It's like 150. So all these things kind of build up and kind of get your game out there on these like spikes. Social media in upon itself does not really do much. There is a slight thing with TikTok. It's still early days, but we think it might get you about 200 to 1,500 if you have like a viral TikTok video. That's about what it is. I'm hearing some beeps on there. I just want to make sure I'm still live as people aren't saying like you've gotten dead or something. Am I still here? Can you hear me okay? Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yeah.
I was a little afraid people were like, we can't hear the guy. We can't hear the guy. It's all right. Thank you. Okay, so what you do is you basically stack these up and you figure out how all this comes together. And you basically make a wish list budget for the launch of your game, right? So you calculate like how many you get per day. So let's say you're a type of game that gets about 15 per day. You just extrapolate for a year. I did the math. It's 5,475 over a year. Then you can kind of calculate like, okay, we're going to try and get into 3 festivals. We're going to get 2 streamers to cover us, and we're going to shoot to get to the front page of Reddit. You add all that up, you're at 1,200. You got there in a year. Good job. You're now past that kind of gatekeeper variable, but that's about what it is. So kind of knowing these things allows you to kind of plan out your marketing over the year. I'm going to take a drink real fast. So that's why I say you can't just like Beyonce drop an album out of nowhere. It's just because it takes so much work just to get to that 10,000. It's not, there's nothing that I know of that can just like 10,000 right away. That's why you can't just launch your game. Okay. So let's optimize for this guy. Um, Basically, what happens is with this new model where you have to get to 10,000, there's just a ton of little tiny gatekeepers. So for each festival, there is a festival organizer, and you have to convince them that your game is worth it, worth including in the festival. Streamers, each one of those streamers is a gatekeeper. Basically, they've just like shattered it, and there's 1,000 gatekeepers out there, and you have to kind of figure out who they are, get past them. To get past the front page of Reddit, you have to have there's like a million gatekeepers to like upvote your game. So I've taught you all this stuff. Let's practice and show you kind of what happened here. Everybody loves Valheim right now. It's like one of the hottest games on Steam. They every week I follow them. They tell about like basically every week they're like we hit another million people who bought our game. They're up to 5 million sales. Like if you just go on their Steam page and look at their news. So this is how it happened. So this is their follower chart. Like you can look this up at steamdb.info. Just search for Valheim. This is what their lead up to release. That little white square is when they released. So you can see it's like flat, and then there's this huge spike when they released, and millions of people bought their game. Now, I kind of wish they had a logarithmic scale because it'd be easier to see what's going on here. But that's the reason it looks so flat. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening up to release. It's just you can't see it because the scale is so out of whack based on how many units they sold. So why did this happen? How did it happen? We're going to deconstruct this. Okay, a lot of people had never heard of Valheim, and they're like, where did this game come from? Why did it get so big? Here's what's the basics. I can tell based on the chart that they probably launched with 160,000 wish lists. This game was not a viral hit. This did not come out of nowhere. They slowly built up a huge campaign. 1,600 wish lists, 160,000 wish lists, excuse me, is a lot. I told you, like, it's really hard for indies to get to 10,000. They did that more than anything. So first off, they're the right type of Steam genre. Dark game, grim dark, as they say in Steam language. It's like dungeons, medieval, yeah, blah. It's got really deep gameplay. You can play this game forever. It's constantly evolving, and it's endless content. You can play with friends. You know, it's very hard. It's very deep. You can replay a lot. It's just the right type of genre. A lot of indies spend a lot of time on Twitter, for better or for worse. The question is, did they go viral on Twitter or something? I went back. I always go to the research. I love the first tweet. It's like baby pictures. It's so cute. This is February 14th, Valentine's Day of 2018. Rather than spending Valentine's Day, this person, the creator of Valheim, tweeted out the first image of Valheim. It looks like the straw man in a forest. They got 15 likes and 6 comments. It wasn't Twitter. They never went viral on Twitter. You can look up, there's other websites where you can look up the Twitter following. When they launched Valheim, they only had 1,700 followers on Twitter. I have more than 1,700 followers on Twitter, just my personal account. There's no way I could launch a Valheim. So what I'm trying to say here is it's not necessary to have a huge Twitter following to do well on Steam. I see it more as a lagging indicator. You can see their Twitter following spiked right after they released. That's usually the case on Twitter. So if you're having trouble getting traction on Twitter and you're like, God, nobody's liking my game, nobody responds to anything, it doesn't matter. Like Twitter is just kind of a companion thing. You don't need to drive your following with Twitter. It's not as good as a lot of people think it is, or as important in marketing your game. So if you look really close, it's like 1 pixel, but there's this little tiny spike up right in the middle there. I've circled it with a little animated GIF there. What was this thing? What happened here? This is E3. I did the research right at that point. They did E3, and they announced they had a new publisher named Coffee Stain. Now, they launched it with this like really good trailer on E3. PC Gaming World, if you see PC Gamer, covered them. They had a special show thing for them. Like it was a big promotion during E3 that they did. And that announcement got them a lot of wish lists. But it also ushered in this new era with Coffee Stain. So Coffee Stain is a really good publisher for the type of game that Valheim is. So before they signed with Coffee Stain, they were getting about 50 wish lists a day. Post signing with Coffee Stain, 120 wish lists a day. Why? Well, Coffee Stain also also publishes games like Satisfactory, which is a very similar game to Valheim. So I think I can't pin it down on anything, but it just drives extra traffic because they have so many people playing their other games. Coffee Stain has huge success with a lot of games. They're just naturally within Steam able to drive traffic to Valheim. So a publisher really helped. They almost tripled their daily wishlist rate just by signing with Coffee Stain. The other thing that Valheim did really well was, and this is way back in the early days, like 2018, they did lots of alphas. They were on itch.io doing alphas. They ran all these betas. I was going through all their past announcements. It was always about running a beta. They constantly had open development. Betas are a great way to get people to follow you to wishlist. If you look, this is a bottom one is itch.io. They announced that they ending their alpha, or they released the alpha. Look at it. It got 23 upvotes. I love looking back in the old history. 23 upvotes. It's so cute. Like, look at that. June 14th, 2018. A long time ago. It's slow growth, but you build up a dedicated community in small neighborhoods like itch.io, and then it expands from there. So stick with it, folks. It just takes a long time. If you look, the steamdb.info also tells you how many views from Twitch they got. You'll notice, and it's kind of hard to see on the slide, but a day before they launched, all of a sudden, like magic, they got 81,000 Twitch viewers. What that tells me, that doesn't just happen. This is Coffee Stain coordinating with streamers. I don't know if they were paid or they just had a really good outreach campaign, but basically you can obviously see there was some sort of campaign. But because Valheim's the right type of genre, they may have paid for that, but then it sustained itself afterwards and just grew from there. So they did a really dedicated pre-launch campaign. So what this all comes down to is it's not one thing. It's not like, oh, they went viral. They just dropped their album out of nowhere. It's the long development period with lots of betas, lots of alphas. They partnered with a publisher that got them into E3. That E3 got them hundreds of wish lists, thousands of wish lists. They launched with a huge stockpile wish list, like 160,000, which is huge. They had a pre-launch streamer campaign, and their genre is like the perfect genre for Steam. Just perfect. Couldn't do any better. And it's just a good game. Steam shoppers are very savvy. They know a good game, they know a bad game. Valheim is a good game. So all of those things are necessary in order to get the game. It's not just going viral. So that's how Steam works. That's everything I know about Steam, what I just told you. I write a weekly column where I just basically it's like this talk that we just had, but it's split up over weeks. So every week I just publish like my research and findings on Steam. You can just sign up for that, howtomarketagame.com/free. I also wrote this little book, and you can get it. It just tells you what to do with your mailing list, because a lot of people are like, what do I do with my mailing list? So I give you ideas. It's like a kid's activity book, but for grown-ups. And also, just to remind you again, howtomakeasteampage.com, where I teach you like how to make a Steam page. So you just take this class and I break down like, oh, this is how you pick the right screenshots, or this is what to do with your trailer on Steam. So I make it free just because it's the most it's a most basic element for getting a popular marketing, because everything comes down to your Steam page. That's why I make it. That's the end of my talk. So I just spitfired this thing for like as long. I don't even know what time it is. It could be an hour. I don't know. But why don't we just have Q&A for as long as you are willing to have me? I'm just going to turn this off so I can view the chat. I don't know. How do you typically do this at the end of the thing? Do you just want to turn on the let me turn down my screen? Actually, I'll keep it running in case you want to look at anything. But mic's open. Whatever you do it.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
What if it's a dark puzzle shooter with a battery twist?
That actually sounds pretty good. Again, it's it kind of tries things. The only worry about puzzle games, and this is kind of where
puzzle. It's running a maze. Really, it's not really so much a puzzle as running a maze.
Okay.
About the maze, it's more about the energy twist and the enemies, and because the energy bar, you can energy bar is in the middle, and you can go to either end and you die at either end, but there's a hyper buff zone at either end, so you get all kinds of special things if you're running close and dangerous to death. So it's about that, and also getting shot at.
Oh, sounds good. It sounds like when my cell phone's low on battery and like I'm trying to find a charger.
Yeah, well, because I had thought of it as I hadn't originally thought of it for Steam, to be honest with you. Because I thought of it more as a phone game, but I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good idea. One thing that I've found is that if it's a limited amount of content, okay, so there's a couple things like I can't tell if it's competitive or not. For indies, if it's multiplayer, where it's like you're competing against other fellow
It's
online players. Oh, okay, because that's really hard to market because it's hard enough to get one person to play your game, but for multiplayer, you have to get like
no,
multiple
no,
people.
it's not. It's not.
And that's good. One thing I would recommend is procedural generation. Like I said, they want gamers on Steam really like depth.
Yeah. Well, that's